Hey everybody, Brian here from quantlabs.net. Just wanted to show you the mechanics of all the different pieces to this Karen super trader strategy. What I'm going to be showing you are about 3 tools. The first one is we're using IQFeed for real live market data. And how we go about collecting that data is with a tool called QCollector. From there, the QCollector will update a file, and I have a C# program that will watch that file. Any additions to that file in terms of prices or any kind of market data info, that C# program will parse out for the latest price. From there it will run some metrics for Bollinger and Fibonacci. Show you that. I've shown this before in my Java code, but this is somewhat getting closer to working with interactive brokers. Now if certain ranges are hit or upper bands, both the Fibonacci and the Bollinger, then you put a buy-in. And that's another story with interactive brokers, TWS. Now my issue was with Java and Linux and IB TWS in Linux. It was very flaky. With this methodology on Windows, QCollector, and all the other tools with IQFeed, this is much better. So let's get to everything. Okay, so hopefully you've seen my latest video on IQFeed, my tools that I use. I go into depth on how I use those. Without watching that, you'll have no idea what I'm doing here. So I'm assuming you've watched it. So we have here our IQFeed. It's running here and here. So you have connection manager. The IQFeed is active. And from there, if I hop into my QCollector here, you'll notice I've added the SPY asset. I made this tick data so you can have different frequencies. As you can see, you can have daily, 5 minute, 1 minute, whatever. In my case, I'm doing tick. In order for testing, I have 2 options. I can go into just do a collected item, or I could have this SPY run in a real-time update, which I have set up here, and I've demoed that in that tool video for IQFeed. With that, that will automatically update a file. Now, where is that file located, you ask? Well, if I come under open folder for the portfolio, this is the file that gets updated, spy_0.txt. So essentially, that will get updated as it collects data from IQFeed. This is probably the simplest way of downloading data and entering it into a program, and specifically C#. There's many different other ways. You could use IQFeed, the API, using a streamer that I could show using Java, but there's an NDA I signed with IQFeed that I don't want to breach that. So, but I will say that that does exist. That's one way of doing it, and you could push that into Redis. I've demoed that in my Linux environment. You could also load up a program that will essentially display all the ticks that come in. You can have them in that program, have a trigger, and have that using something like 0MQ and push that into the queue of 0MQ and then have the listener on the other end of 0MQ trigger that data or suck in the data or do something, whatever, with the pricing. So there's different options. I've shown the 0MQ option in my membership for my elite members, my premium, got all that included in my course as part of that, but there's new updates with Redis and other ways, which I'm going to show you the simplest way is using just this simple file right here. So in my C#, I have a program. It will listen to any changes of that file, and I'll just go in and retrieve the latest data, the latest price, parse it out, and then do whatever with the pricing and run it against the Bollinger and the Fibonacci. So that is retrieving data. And again, this is IQ feed. This is real world data. Now, with the IQ feed, we're using TWS link. I've hopefully seen some of my videos. I've actually created a new playlist on my YouTube on IQ feed. I would highly recommend you watch that playlist. And the other big challenge I had with interactive brokers, TWS, and Java in Linux, I'm going to tell you it's very flaky. If I was to send a buy and a sell, they don't get matched up. They don't execute for whatever. Sometimes they execute, sometimes they don't. And there's really it's a mess. This is why I use TWS link, because it consolidates everything in a nice, easy code that you'll see. And I've done a walkthrough with that as well on my YouTube. So it's really important that you watch those to understand it, because now I'm going to show you the actual trading logic and everything pulled together. So that's how we have it. So let me run it. And here in my Visual Studio, tentatively I've created this program called Karen Entry to C#. I'll walk you through it. And I'm going to run it. Just get on with it, I guess. And it's in debug mode, as you can tell. I think I have some pointer breakpoints. Doesn't look like I do, but it doesn't matter. Now, for demonstration purposes, I want to show the ability of a buy being sent from the C# using the price and triggering a buy into the TWS. And I can do it consistently. And I was not able to do that with Java. So let me show that. Okay. So what we have here is we have our console app. And it's going to send out a little message. If we go into my QCollector. So we're already now ready to get queued up. Okay. So let me load up the TWS as well. Okay, so we're going to have 3 programs that we're going to be watching here. It's going to get kind of tight. Okay. Everything's going to be driven by the QCollector because as I go in and do a right-click, collect selected item, which is the SPY, it will go out and request the latest price from IQ feed on SPY. And then what we'll do is it will display some messages here in this console app, and at the same time it'll force, for every time I do that, a buy into TWS. Okay, so let me show you all that. Okay, so I'm going to do a collect to collected of SPY, and you can see here that the file that I just showed you has changed. So there's our buy right here. I'll show you the code that drives that. Okay, so what's happened is those lines I was explaining, this is the latest price that it got from IQ feed. So do realize it is 2:30 in the morning because I like to work late at night. And as I said, I skipped the Fibonacci and the Bollinger. So these numbers are 0, and just do that as a comparison. And every time I do a collection, it's gonna just send out a buy to TWS. It's gonna trigger that. So let me show you that again. Nothing exciting. I'll show you the code in a minute. But we're gonna do this collection. So it changed. And there you go. It sent out the buy from my C# program, and that I can do that all day and all night. Good luck in trying to do that with Java, the API of interactive brokers. It was just not consistent, and so there you go. All right, so let's take a look at the code. You can tell there's a lot of moving parts to this, and I try to simplify as much as possible, but that's kind of when you got 3 programs talking to each other, and we haven't even talked about Redis and my other database, be it MySQL or Postgres, whichever one I choose. Most likely for Windows, I'll go back to my Postgres. And essentially what we're doing is trying to think of how to present this. Let me just take you to the main, probably the most logical thing. Alright, so here we're in the main. There's 2 things that get currently run. All this stuff doesn't really get run at all. Just these 2 guys. So we have a pre-allocate price. Let me show that method. I think this should work. Go to definition. There we go. Alright, so what we're doing is we're maintaining a rolling window. In the rolling window, in this case for, again, demoing and testing, I set it at a very small number, at 5. Okay? Really, what I understand with Karen, everything she does is end of day. This is set at 50 for the rolling window. Look, I'm not going to be doing any live trading with this strategy. I'm going to set it at 50. All my Quant Elite members can download the code and modify any of the parameters that they want. It's up to them. All right. Okay, so we know that. Not really using this concurrent queue anymore. So, but I do want to highlight something here. All the different types of containers that you can get in .NET. This is pretty well your best container for parallelized or multi-threading environments, because with a rolling window you want it to be a queue, and you also want it to be thread safe. So that is a perfect container for that purpose. But just again for demonstration and testing, I'm only using a list. Ooh, real exciting stuff, eh? I'll show you some of this stuff. I'm not going to get into this p-invoke stuff. This can get really confusing, so I'll leave that to later and explain it. But here, before all the methods get initialized, we have a bunch of variables. As I said, I'm maintaining a list of prices of doubles, real simple stuff. I have my bounds, my bands or boundaries of my Fibonacci, the upper and lower. We initialize those. We have the same for the Fibonacci of the different numbers. 25%, or is it 25%? 0.618%. But we define them. And where did we start? I think we were at the pre-allocate. Okay, continuing along in the pre-allocate. This is the very first thing that gets run within the main. What we're doing here is, one thing I love about C# is you can chain all these little methods together and really condense things. Again, it's not about efficiency or optimal speed. It's not a high frequency trading strategy. This is just for demoing purposes. The frequency of this can be as low as maybe 5-10 seconds, but definitely not sub-microsecond. It's just not the current rate. Anyways, what we do here, that file I showed you that is sent over or updated, this one, which gets updated by the QCollector here. So if I do that collect, what will happen is the file will just get updated. So changes have been made to the file. So it's 240, it's 241, so a change has just been made. And it's going to update it with the latest pricing. I could show you the file if you want to see it. This is a tick file now. It's not a bar. Let's see if I can load it up in my Excel. It's going to be a monster file. You can see it's over 665K or meg, sorry. But it seems to handle it pretty well. Righty. Let's see. Looks like it's loading in. I can see it just under there. Okay, come on, baby. So right now Excel's busy. You can probably just see it. Trying to open Spy. There we go. Oh, couldn't load it. Too big. Oh no, it could load it. All right. So this is the kind of info you can get from QCollector. You get a date, time, price here. It matches exactly what you get in QCollector. So in this case, we get description, time, blah blah blah. Okay, all we care really about is at this point is the price. Okay, and I think there's open high, sorry, bid ask, probably the volume, that sort of thing. Okay. All right, so continuing along in the code. So that's essentially what we're doing, is we're going to read the lines of that file I just showed you. We're going to read the last set of the window size, which is our rolling window, and we convert it to a list, right? From there, we cycle through each of these lines, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to parse out the price. So we do here, we parse it by tab. We convert, because it's from a string, into a price, right? And it's the second, actually it's the third element, because it's zero based in C#. From there, we could, if we want, add that price to the queue, the concurrent queues I showed you. And that's pretty well it. Actually, I just remember this little bug. I think prices, add price. That would, something that needs to be done. All right. Okay, so that's the pre-allocate. So the next step was, from the main after that, is to run. So if we go to the run method, which is right here, so we define our path, and we're setting up a watcher on that file that we talked about. And if there's ever a change here, we set up like a handler, and if that file gets changed, run Unchanged. So you can set all these other conditions, but we don't care about create, delete, or rename. We don't need that. We don't care about that. So essentially, when that file gets changed, it's going to run this method, the Unchanged. So let's go over there, that method. So here we are in the Unchanged method. Essentially, we'll just put out that little message that you saw earlier about the file being changed. And essentially, we're doing the same thing as before, creating, actually, no, that's not true. We're going to parse out each line within the file, okay? But we're going to delimit it by tab. And, oh, no, this is for the file name. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so we're going to grab the name of the file. And all we care about is grabbing the symbol name. So we'll do some manipulation here. Parse it by the slash. Take that, and then on the third one, we know that's going to be the file name. And then we parse it again by the underscore. And then from there, we will get the very first element parsed by the underscore and the F name. So essentially what we're doing is we do the first parse on this, what do you call it, path. On the third element, we know we'll get this. So we parse that out, and then we know that's the file name. From there, we parse by the underscore here, and we take out the first element, which is really just the spy. That's the symbol name. That's what we want. So, knowing that if we have that particular symbol, in this case we want spy, we then have to go into the file and grab the latest price. That's what this method does. So we grab the price, and then we read the lines. Again, this right here is a combination. Just basically read the last line in the file. Parse again by tab. Take the second, really the third element, zero base, remember. From there in the line, we know that will be the price. Display it if you want, and then return the price because it's a double type that we're returning. So that was from, so this retrieve last price or latest price is right here. Okay, so we know now the price because it's returned, and we'll display it. But remember, I've commented out the ability to execute these two methods, the Fibonacci and the Bollinger. I'll show you those in a sec. So again, we can add the price to the queue, the concurrent queue if we want. And then we will add the prices to the parse of the prices, because we convert it from the queue, concurrent queue, to a list of prices. So essentially what we'll do once we get past this, we'll run the Fibonacci and Bollinger. Show those in a second. But basically they'll calculate, remember the upper band and the percent 25? So if our current price, which is captured again from that file, from the retrieve last price, if that price breaches the upper band and breaches the upper Fibonacci, we now trigger a buy. And that's what we do right here. So essentially, this code, if I uncommented this and uncommented this, this is pretty well ready to go for quote-unquote live trading. Let's take a look at the algorithms for Fibonacci, and then I'll introduce you to the last part, which I've already introduced you in the past videos on the P invoking. Okay, so let's find our Fibonacci. Okay, here's the first algorithm, or call algorithm, quote unquote. Here's our Fibonacci. So what we're doing, we already have our prices list. And essentially what we want to do out of that price, out of the rolling window of prices, we want to calculate our minimum and our max. So that's what we get here, min-max pricing. And we just calculate the percentage of the upper and lower of the Fibonacci, P25, P618, using these formulas. And then the Bollinger's similar. What we do is we take the price list, get an average. Now I'm assuming it's an SMA, but whatever, change it to whatever you want as you get the code or access to the code. Take the sum square, sum everything in each price, and calculate using that formula. Get our standard deviation from here, which is really the square root of the sum square, and then we can calculate our upper and lower bound from that. That's from a past MATLAB algorithm that I used for the Bollinger, which pretty well worked all the time. So that's that. So the last part that I haven't talked about, which is probably the most complicated, if this isn't complicated enough for anybody newbie to this, but the tricky part is the sell market or the buy, which is basically calling the TWS, the interactive brokers. How do we do that? Well, here we have a DLL, so we're P invoking, that's what they call it, this DLL. Now I've shown this in past YouTube videos under my TWS link to playlist, and we call that, and basically we're going to wrap C# method. Basically it's an external C++ method that's in the C++ DLL. Now I've shown this again in a past video under my playlist of TWS link. You can find that there. And we just send over generic parameters. So in our case, you can see how simple it is to interface with TWS now using TWS link 2. All we have to do is just send over the symbol and the quantity. In our case, I think it's just SPY and one quantity. But we can set that for however we want. But you see my Java code, and it's probably to be able to generate that sort of call in the IB API within either .NET or Java. Take about 20 to 30 lines. So this is all condensed into one line. It's kind of nice. And as you can see, it works all the time. And that's pretty well the wrap up of the entry code. There's still the exit code. The last step in the entry is I've got to mark off the position table I've talked about before, using both way in the past Postgres, and I was using MySQL to do the equivalent in Linux. So in this case, we're going to do the same, but using Postgres, but also basically track probably the something from TWS, so we can match it in the and the exit logic code for the cell. So what are the conditions for an exit? From what I saw, it's very generic with what Karen's super strategy has set at 15 as a stop loss. And that's it. And you sell. And that's all this strategy does. It just runs that. Watches the market, hits those Bollinger and Fibonacci upper band, put an entry on. With that same position, continue watching the market. Once you hit a stop loss of 15%, exit the market. And that's all this strategy really does. That's why I've used it, because it's simple. And it's popular. But I just wanted to introduce that to you. And looking good. So I'll introduce you to the other end of it, and hopefully I'll be able to put that exit code into the same program I have here. And I'll walk you through that. All right. See you in a bit, like in now.